the top 10 free-to-play characters that you should farm early on, and why you should. Okay, so I will start with Royal Guard, and I will move up through them in this direction because I want to save the best till last. So Royal Guard, he's very easy to get hold of, and the reason you will farm him, as I mentioned in the previous video, is because he's an Empire character, and you need Empire teams to conduct missions. Sorry, not conduct missions, but perform well in events. One of those especially to get R2-D2, who is a very, very good character, and you need an Empire team for that. But not least because his unyielding defender ability, which doesn't require you to press any buttons, gives him an auto taunt whenever one of your characters falls below 50 health. It doesn't specify whether it's a light or a dark side character. Any character who falls below 50 health activates the taunt on Royal Guard, and as Royal Guard has defense up capabilities, he actually becomes very useful in protecting your attacking team. So he would be the first one. He's not necessarily number 10 out of 10. They're in no real order, but Royal Guard is certainly one that you need to work on. Second in this particular list is Biggs Darklighter. Now you want him for two reasons. The first reason is that he's a pilot, and his ship is very good. His ship has a taunt as well. It's a very defensive ship, very tanky ship, but his ship has an auto taunt when another one of your allies takes a hit. His ship will auto taunt, and if you pair him with the Jedi Consular, who's able to increase his protection, Biggs is actually very difficult to kill when he's in a ship. The other reason you want Biggs is because he has a very good synergy with Wedge, the other Red Squad pilot. This ability, Comrade in Arms, means that when Biggs activates this activity, Wedge is called in for an assist, as with a third rebel character. Okay, so you end up having three players taking a shot on one player, and all attacks have 75% more critical chance. So if you increase Biggs's mods with crit damage and crit chance, and Wedge with crit damage and crit chance, and your other player also has that, it's a random choice out of your 5, but if you're lucky enough to get, let's say Han Solo or something like this, you can clean out a character very easily with one shot. So Biggs is very useful for two reasons. One, well, he's easily farmable, very easily, but mainly because he's a pilot, and secondly because he has a good synergy with Wedge Antilles. Then we have Stormtrooper Han. Now, Stormtrooper Han isn't a character I've used very much at all. But he's in this list because he's very easy to get. He's a rebel and he's a scoundrel. Rebels are good for collecting Emperor Palpatine. Rebels have a lot of use in this game, which kind of makes sense because in Star Wars it's the rebels that defeat the Empire. Rebels are the strongest faction without a doubt. I'm sure somebody will disagree with that. But secondly, because he's a scoundrel, and you need scoundrels to activate the credit heist event. So every few weeks or so, I don't know the exact schedule, there's an event where you can earn between 1.5 and 10 million credits. I've never seen the 10 million credit, but I have seen a 5 million credit win. So you need scoundrels for this. So he's useful for this regard. In this regard, also he's useful because he's a tank. And tanks are very useful in games like this. You need somebody to take damage. So he's a good character. Like I said, I haven't really used him. I kind of bypassed him with other characters, but I've seen a lot of people use this guy. So Stormtrooper Han is certainly one you need to look at. He's also needed for the Commander Luke Skywalker event. You need a certain set of characters to unlock Commander Luke Skywalker, and he's one of them. I don't have that character yet. But on a free-to-play, if I was just starting out, I would certainly focus on Stormtrooper Han more than I have so far in this game. And we have Jedi Consular. He's one of the first characters that you unlock. and he's useful because A, he's a healer, which is very useful, but B, he's also a pilot, and he is one of the only protection up ships on an ability. So he can, he can apply protection to almost any of your ships. TIE Fighter pilot can't gain protection. There's no protection on that ship anyway. But all other ships he can add protection to. He can also call an assist with his ship attack, and that automatically adds a layer of protection to your ship. So Jedi Consular is useful because he's a team healer. He's useful because he's a Jedi, and you need a strong team of Jedis to unlock characters like Grandmaster Yoda. But he's also a pilot, and again, he's very, very easy to get hold of. We have the aforementioned Wedge Antilles. Wedge is also a pilot, and we mentioned earlier his synergy with Biggs Darklighter. Wedge is a super useful character. I've been playing this for a good few months now. I'm up to 1 million galactic power with my team, and I still use Wedge in many instances. He's not in my arena team anymore, but he's useful in all kinds of events. So his leadership ability, which allows rebels to recover health and gain turn meter when they score critical hits, means that he's useful for the pit raid, the Rancor pit raid. He's useful in the Sith raid. Of course, I'm not clearing these things out myself. I'm not one of these guys. I'm a free to play player, so I don't have one of these teams that can waste through all of these raids by themselves. But he can certainly do damage, and he can certainly manipulate a team to cause large damage. And again, like I said, he's a pilot, and his secondary ability on a ship that has target lock is very powerful. You can take 40,000 damage out with that ship. So I would most certainly look at Wedge as a complement to Biggs. So Biggs and Wedge together. Certainly you should be looking at him. Then we come to Count Dooku. Count Dooku is arguably the most annoying character in this game. If you come up against Count Dooku with a Darth Nihilus lead in the arena, which I don't see much of anymore, but Darth Nihilus allows Sith characters or allies, I'm not sure because I don't have Darth Nihilus, to gain health on attack. So they basically health steal, and they I think it's 70% health steal. So every time Count Dooku attacks, he gains health. Now Count Dooku, his flawless riposte ability, even if you don't Zeta it, is a 100% counter chance. Now when he attacks on his counter chance, he has the ability to stun characters as well. His basic has a chance to stun, sorry. So he's really, really annoying. He's really super annoying. And he's very simple. He's very easy to get to. And when you find yourself in the arena up against this guy, whether you're at an early level or a later level, you kind of got to tactically play how you attack him. You can't simply shoot Dooku, because he's going to counter attack, and he may counter attack with 2 attacks. You understand? He's like a double counter attacker. So when I face him, for example, I'll make sure that I stun him whenever possible with, let's say, R2-D2. It's no guarantee that that's going to happen. If I'm playing with Han Solo, then certainly I'll stun him with him. But really, a stun and then an attack is out. And if you're playing a player that doesn't have players with characters with the ability to stun, Count Dooku is just a mess. So for your dark side team early on, certainly get this guy. He was really, really useful for me, and I really hated playing against him. TIE Fighter pilot is, I'm surprised I don't see many more of this guy. He's a fast character, and speed is important in this game. But he is a pilot, and the character itself dodges attacks like nobody's business. He's very, very dodgy. I think evasion is the term. He has foresight. He's an Empire character. His basic smacks really hard for as you can see here, deal physical damage to a target enemy and deal 35% more damage for each enemy suffering a debuff. So if you've paired him with Darth Vader and Tarkin, and you've debuffed your enemy, he can smack characters down for 20, 30,000, 40,000 damage. He's very, very good indeed, and he's very, very fast. And his ship is insane. His ship doesn't have protection on it, because TIE fighters in the films don't have shields, so he doesn't have protection on his ship. However, the ship almost always goes first, and the special ability gains the ship foresight, and foresight is essentially the ability to dodge an attack. And every time TIE Fighter's ship dodges an attack, which is most of the time, it grants turn meter to Tarkin's capital ship. So it speeds up another ship. So TIE Fighter pilot is extremely useful. Extremely useful. TIE Strike inflicts buff immunity to almost everybody it hits, 80% chance. So again, he's useful in that regard. He's just a really, really good character. Like I said, I think the only reason we don't see him so much later on in the game is because he's only got 3 abilities. He doesn't really have enough to compete at the higher levels. You know, you really need kind of 2 or 3 abilities and then 2 or 3 passive abilities. He's only got two basic abilities and 1 passive ability, so he hasn't got the power. But certainly get him, because his ship is awesome, best ship in the game in my opinion. Then we come to Grand Moff Tarkin. Now, Grand Moff Tarkin, as you can see, he's the captain of a capital ship, so that's why it looks a little bit different here. So in the game, there are currently 4 capital ships. Admiral Akbar, Grand Moff Tarkin, what's the chap from the Grand Admiral Thrawn, and Mace Windu. They're also capital ships, but Tarkin's ship is very, very good when paired with dark side characters. Now, in addition to this, and I don't see him a great deal in the arena, but he's a very useful player. This ability here deals special damage to all enemies with a 100% chance to remove 50% of their turn meter. So as we discussed in one of the other tutorials, turn meter is essentially the blue bar underneath your health. And the higher that goes, the closer to the end is when you're going to take your turn. So he's going to cut that off. He simply stops the enemy. He stops the enemy taking their turn. In addition to this, gain potency up for 3 turns, then inflict critical chance down and offense down for 3 turns on all enemies. Rebel enemies can't resist these debuffs. I mean, that's insane. That's you know, if you pair him with TIE Fighter pilot and Darth Vader, who are able to actively act on debuffs and punish enemies who have debuffs, he becomes really useful. His leadership ability, let's skip the Zeta and just go for the level 7. Empire allies gain 28 speed, inflict defense down for 2 turns on enemies that fall below 100% health during Empire allies turns. Again, this effect can't be resisted. So this guy is the debuff king. He slows people down. He stops them hitting hard. He's just a messy character. So he is a mandatory character for you to upgrade. Farm him as quick as you possibly can. Get him up as high as you can. He is good in the end game too. He's good in the end game too. He's a great player. And not top of the list. Second to top is Lando. We all love a bit of Lando. Useful because, as we saw in another video, he has a very high damage output across all areas with this attack. Deal physical damage to all enemies. If this attack scores more than 1 critical hit, its cooldown is reset and it deals 100% more damage on its next turn, so that's good. If you pair him with Wedge, a Wedge leadership, and maybe a Han Solo, as I've done in another video, and you put his crit chance up, then he becomes very effective. He's basically smacking the hell out of everybody. Just boom, boom, boom. He doesn't shoot 1 person at a time. He kills all 5 repeatedly. He's very, very fast. But he's also a scoundrel. So when it comes to the aforementioned credit heists, he's useful. His leadership, again, is the one you want to use on credit heists. Scoundrel and Rebel allies gain 15 speed and 29% critical damage. So when you're using your Scoundrel teams, which includes Boba Fett as well, if you want to unlock him. I haven't included Boba here. He has an ability block and he revives, and I've seen him very popular early game, but I survived without him. but I may have to unlock him because he has a ship. But Lando is a scoundrel, and he again boosts the damage. So very, very useful player. Not useful in the arena, but useful against things like Night Sister teams where, attack over area is very good. And plus it's Lando Calrissian, man. I mean, he's Lando Calrissian. How can you not upgrade? How can you ignore? How can you have a Star Wars game and ignore? I mean, look how cool he is. Just look. Can I look at that? I mean, he's Lando. I don't care what he did, man. I can forgive everything Lando did. He's like the coolest guy in the world. And finally, arguably the easiest and best to get free to play character is Barriss Offee. Now, Barriss Offee is a healer, and you may wonder why she's top of my list. That's because her healing ability, her overall suite of healing abilities is insanely good. So I'm going to go through each of these one at a time. So, Invigorating Strike. Deal physical damage to a target enemy with a 45% chance for all allies to recover 6% of Barriss Offee's max health. Okay, so not 6% of their own health, but 6% of Barriss Offee's health. Now, if you've got an attacker who doesn't really have a great deal of health and is pretty squishy on the defensive side, you can put up, this just her basic attack can heal one of your characters to almost a quarter of their maximum health. So just on her basic attack, you're healing. Then we come to a special healing ability. All allies have their current health percentages equalized. Health equalizing effects ignore healing immunity. Right? How cool is that? Then each ally recovers 15% of their max health and gains defense up for 2 turns. So once again, if you've got her and, let's say another really health strong character in your team, their health levels affect all of your other players. So almost all of the time, using this ability will max out everybody's health. Even when they're right down low, it will max out everybody's health. And they gain defense up. Wow, it's just amazing. Her leader ability, you're not really going to put her in a leader ability. However, I did have her on my leader as a leader when I unlocked Grandmaster Yoda, because Jedi allies gain 20% max health and other allies gain half that. In addition, at the start of each of their turns, Jedi allies heal for 8% of Barriss. So, in the Grandmaster Yoda event, when you get to the 7-star level, even though it's only one round, a fair bit of damage is done. You're going up against a full Jedi team. So having that auto heal is useful. It certainly was useful and it helped me get the 7th star. But you wouldn't generally use her as a leader. But then we have Swift Recovery. And this is kind of where you have to go into Zeta. So, we're fully upgraded. This was actually the first character I put a Zeta mat on. At the end of each of her turns, Barriss dispels all debuffs from the debuffed ally with the lowest health. Okay, so the guy that's in most trouble gets cleaned without you pressing a button automatically. And then she gains 10% turn meter for each effect removed. Now, if you're playing a dark side team, we've just discussed TIE Fighter Pilot and Tarkin. Darth Vader's free to play farmable, but you can't farm his shards. You need to complete achievements to get his shards, so he's not included in this list. Otherwise, he would certainly be here. But you can have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different buffs. So she's going to gain, on an automatic cleanse, she is going to gain something like 60, 50, 60, 70% of her max health automatically. It just automatically happens. And then whenever an ally is critically hit, that ally recovers 20% of their max health, and Barriss gains 10% turn meter. This effect is disabled while Barriss is defeated. Okay, so while she's alive, essentially. Now, I just did the Sith raid. And she was left. She was the last one standing, and I had Traya and Sion, and they were chucking lightsabers at her and attacking her. And she was down to 2 red bars of health. But because they kept hitting her with critical attacks, they filled her health bar with their attacks, right? So I've discussed this before with Rebels, when the Rebels crit hits, hit with crits, crit hits, hit with crits, there we go. I've discussed this before, but essentially, she gets shot and heals, and she passes this on to other players. If you pair her with a General Kenobi in a tank position, and General Kenobi takes a beating, then this ability, once they start hitting them with critical attacks, he will fill the health bar. It's amazing. It's amazing. So she's quite high up in the holo tables, level 7 or 8 as I remember, but I'm not sure. But she is a free to play player. She will fit in any team and be equally useful in any team. I hope that was useful. If I'd have had a video like this, I certainly would have gone for all of these characters. There are other characters you can farm depending on the kinds of teams that you want, but my experience is, long term, these are pretty much all useful, and they're all free to play and easy to get. If you have any other ideas, I'd be interested to hear them, because I've got my direction with my crew, but I always want ideas. I always want to hear a better idea, So pop a comment below if you have a better idea, or if you've seen somebody I've missed and I should be working on.